Those of you who have been following tennis over the past decade or so will know about the existence of Ernests Gulbis, probably the only Latvian male tennis player you know about, and the greatest to ever do it from that country. He became one of the best players in the world, and it was his difficult character and his strange strokes, especially his forehand, that made him absolutely different from the rest. However, he was not only special inside the court. From a very young age, his life was totally different from that of a normal tennis player. Gulbis was born on August 30th, 1988 in Riga, the capital city of Latvia. His father, Ernests, is an art investment businessman and was at the time Latvia's richest man. His mother, Milena, on the other hand, is a theater actress, daughter of a professional basketball player. Both of them were book collectors and named their child after renowned author Ernest Hemingway. Gulbis grew up in an upper-class household, which meant his family did not have to make the sacrifices that of other players had to. Moreover, growing in a family where culture and literature were valued so much, he was exposed to a rich cultural environment from a young age. Classical music and philosophy were part of his childhood, whereas that is not something one would call normal. He is the second of 5 siblings. He has 3 sisters, Alina, Laura, and Monica, as well as a brother, Kristaps. Ernest dominates 4 languages: Latvian, Russian, English, and German. His tennis background goes back to when he was 5 years old, when he started playing tennis with his paternal grandmother. She spent hours on the court with him and helped nurture his passion for the sport. At the time, he also played basketball, influenced by his maternal grandfather, who had been a professional player that even managed to represent the Soviet Union at the Olympics. However, he decided to stick to tennis, mainly because of his personality. He was a rather lonely boy, so he didn't feel comfortable playing team sports. Eventually, Ernest became a young prodigy in his home country. His talent and potential started generating hype within the tennis community in Latvia. From a young age, he stood out for his unorthodox playing style and ability to compete at a high level. When he was 12 years old, his father took him to Nikola Pilic's academy in Germany, where he trained until he was 18. There he met some of the other upcoming talents of the game who would then become his rivals. An example? The one and only Novak Djokovic. As he grew up, Gulbis participated in some junior ITF tournaments, having decent results. He only played 3 tournaments though, 2 grade 5s and a grade 4, which he won. That was all. From that moment on, he decided to start his transition to the professional tour, playing futures tournaments. In June 2004, just before turning 16, Gulbis officially turned professional. His decision to enter the pro circuit at such a young age showcased his determination and confidence. He chose to bypass most of his junior career and focus on building into the professionals. He wasn't interested in building his career playing tournaments that didn't motivate him. It didn't take him too long to establish himself and start having decent results. In September 2005, he won his first ITF Futures title in Friedberg, Germany in a 15K tournament. The year after, he won his first challenger title in Untold, Germany, after losing 2 finals earlier. Finally, in 2007, he made his top 100 debut at a very young age. At that moment, he was already talked about, not only because of his talent and for being a rising star, but because of his character. He was already known for smashing rackets everywhere. Since he started to become a familiar face on tour, everyone could notice how different his background was. He used to arrive at the tournaments in his private jet, together with his dad, who decided to accompany him wherever he played. This was not the usual thing, as most players' parents had to work and could just fund the trips for their child and maybe a coach. In most cases, they could not travel with them. In this case, apart from the economical support, Ernest's father also gave him a lot of emotional contention, traveling with him most of the time. This was, of course, very important to him, especially when he was younger. As one would expect, judging by his background, Ernests Gulbis never played for money or fame. He just played to fulfill his dream and ambition to become the world #1. However, the transition to the main tour was not as smooth as some would have expected. His first big result was in 2008, when he reached the quarterfinals of a Grand Slam for the first time. It was at Roland Garros, and he lost to Novak Djokovic in 3 sets. His first ATP final would take its time to arrive. It was eventually in 2010 when he reached that milestone in Delray Beach. That was also his first title, as he beat Ivo Karlovic in that decisive match. He would then win 5 more titles to total 6 at the end of his career, all of them ATP 250s. A fun fact is that he had won each and every one of the finals he had played until 2018, when he played his 7th final in Stockholm and lost to Stefanos Tsitsipas. His best year was by far 2014. He won 2 ATP titles in Marseille and Nice before making it all the way to the semi-finals of Roland Garros, beating Roger Federer along the way in the 4th round. He lost to Djokovic again, this time in 4 sets. After that tournament, he cracked into the top 10 and reached his best ever ranking of number 10 in the world. However, this would not change his personality at all. It was later rumored that he spent his whole prize money of the tournament worth 500,000 euros playing blackjack. Now, it might seem strange that he only has those 2 peak Grand Slam results and not many more. This is because Gulbis struggled to find motivation in the early rounds of these tournaments, having to play on the exterior courts. Again, his mindset was completely different to other players. He only wanted to play in the greater stages and wasn't very interested in the rest. After 2014, his career would plummet. The second half of that season did not have any proper highlights. He just made 2 semifinals, which weren't enough to maintain his ranking inside the top 10. He finished the season at number 13 in the world. 2015 should have been the year where he established himself as a top 15 or top 20 player, but that did not happen. His start of the year was terrible, failing to win any matches until March. Then he started having injury issues that would end up ruining his career in the long term. In addition, a few months into the injuries period, he ended the relationship with the longtime coach Gunther Bresnik. Since then, his career would never be the same. He had a brief stellar return in 2018 where he had some solid results. However, the story repeated itself. He could not manage to be consistent. He made the 4th round at Wimbledon, beating Zverev, in the final in Stockholm, losing to Tsitsipas. That was the last time he was widely spoken about in the tennis world. In the meantime, he took some time away from tennis due to injuries. He managed to find love, get married, and have a daughter. He somehow left behind his fame of being a crazy party man to become a more serious individual. Not much is known about his private life, though. Towards the end of his career, especially after the pandemic, he barely played. But he took on some other challenges. In September 2022, Gulbis became president of the Latvian Tennis Union after presenting his own candidature. Thinking about it, despite his character, there's no better person to have that role than him. If the greatest tennis player in the history of the country can't help bring new kids into the sport, who can? Finally, in 2023, throughout an Instagram post which was posted by a fan account, his followers were informed about his retirement. Ernests Gulbis is officially retired, it said. It was a very low-profile announcement which did not have the repercussion it maybe should have had, considering the caliber of player Gulbis had been. If you enjoyed today's story, check out the previous videos in the channel and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of the upcoming ones.